Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Coffee with Dr. Tom. I hope you've got your coffee. Marzi and I had ours already, and I don't have another one. But welcome. Glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about why do some people get sick and why some don't, and also some what I consider paradigm-shifting thoughts for you guys to wrestle with, that I've been wrestling with now for a number of weeks as information's been coming out. And so some things I'm going to introduce today are startling, but I hope they give you pause and you just kind of kick them around like I've been kicking them around for a few weeks. Thank you so much for being here. It allows my team and I to do what we do. And I actually had a dream last night. I didn't tell Marzi. I had a dream, and we were walking somewhere, and we're going to walk underneath a bridge. And on the bridge, there was, maybe a 12-year-old kid said, "Hey, there's Dr. Tom. Hi, I drink coffee with you." And I thought, oh, how cool is that? Okay. And I woke up with a smile on my face. So thank you so much for being here. It gives us purpose in this time that for some people is actually purposeless. We have a lot of people in the world that are suffering right now in quarantine. And this is not talked about too much in the news, but the incidence of suicides is going up. The incidence of child abuse is going up. The incidence of spousal abuse is going up because people are together 24/7. And so there are some not good things happening right now, and I hope to bring a little spark of light into the world, and that you guys carry this spark out to your entire worlds. So why aren't we sick all the time? For those of us who have been exposed to the virus and we don't have to go to the hospital, how come? Why is it that we are not sick? And that's a really important thing to understand for all of us. You can't prevent being exposed to the virus. Epidemiologists are telling us it's questionable if quarantine is reducing exposure. It's there in theory, it's a plausible theory, but there's really no evidence that it reduces the exposure, and we won't know for 6 months to a year from now, as millions of people do the antibody test to see if they've made antibodies to this virus. If they've made antibodies to the virus and they didn't get sick, that meant they were exposed and the immune system is taking care of it. Just like every year, somewhere between 30 and 80,000 people in the US die every year from the flu. And it's not just those people that got exposed to the flu.
We don't see the slides.
I'm sorry, I'm not sharing the screen. Oh, thanks, Marzi. Hang on a minute, let me back up and share my screen. You know, there's always some technological thing that I'm not doing. So thanks to Marzi. Okay, good. So now, I hope you see my screen. So I'll just back up to the thank you slide and say thank you so much for being here. And the big question, why aren't we sick all the time? Why is over 80% of those exposed to the virus okay? How come you're okay? And maybe a loved one or someone you know, a neighbor or a family member, a cousin, is not okay. How come? So 30 to 80,000 people a year in the US for the last 10 years, every year, die from the flu. But it's not that 30 to 80,000 people got exposed to the flu. Hundreds of thousands, millions are exposed to the flu bug because there was no distancing. And millions were exposed to the flu bug, but most people never knew it. They never got sick, and they're fine. Well, they've got antibodies. They were exposed to the flu virus, and their immune system said, "We got you covered here," and took care of the virus so it couldn't get inside your cells and it's called viral shedding. You know, it splits off and it takes over and it makes more virus and more virus and more virus. That our immune systems take, if you haven't gotten the flu, your immune system's doing its job every single year. So why is it that some people get sick and others don't? That's a big part of what we're going to talk about today. And then also some new lines of thinking to kind of wrestle with and digest. But as some of you know, if there's a pearl on the screen, this is a pearl, meaning pick up on it. And this is a premise by which to live our lives. Prevention is the ultimate principle of wisdom. To cure disease after it's manifested is like digging a well when one is thirsty, or forging a weapon after the war has begun. I mean, that's ridiculous, you know, to wait to the last minute to do that, but that's what most people do in terms of their health. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And the other pearl I wanted to give you is my mentor, Dr. Jeffrey Bland, the founder of functional medicine, said about 5 weeks ago now, it's important to remember that COVID is a lifestyle disease. Why do some people get sick and others don't? It's a lifestyle disease, and it's remediated, it's taken care of through the way we live, we act, we eat, and we socialize. It's the classical example of a personalized lifestyle healthcare issue. So we've been trained to think it's a disease bug and we have to kill the disease. It's a lifestyle disease, and that disease bug is not supposed to be able to get hold at all. And that's the job of our immune system, to say, don't worry, I got you covered here, and take care of this thing so that it can't shed and reproduce and then make us sick. And you've heard me say in previous coffees, it's how we live our lives that determine that. I'm going to give you a few other aspects of how we live our lives today that I hope you'll think about. So we know in the course of this that if you're exposed, the term for that is infection. You've got this virus. But so many people, millions of people, never knew they got the virus. Why? Because their body made antibodies to take care of this thing. And remember, we have two immune systems. We have the innate immune system. That's the boots on the ground first responders. And then we have the adaptive immune system. When the first responders can't take care of it completely, you make antibodies. That's the adaptive immune system. So in a exposure, referred to as an infection, the vast majority of people never knew that they were exposed. Those that get a minor sore throat, a little cough, a little fever, a little diarrhea, and then they're fine, there are over 80% of those who have a reaction to the virus. About 20% have to go to the hospital. And if they have to go to the hospital, then the next step, if they have to stay because they can't get this thing in remission, they're put in ICU. And if they're put in the ICU and that doesn't take care of it, the next step is a ventilator. And so that's the sequence of this. And where you are and your family is as a response to the exposure to this virus is in one of the three phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Most doctors say if you're in phase 2, meaning you're in the 80% that got a little uncomfortable, a little sick for a couple of days and you're fine, don't worry about it, you're okay. Well, my message is, well, you shouldn't have ever gotten sick. So your innate immune system can use a little help in the future. Just recognize, okay, my innate immune system kicked in, it took care of it, but I got symptoms. You're not supposed to get symptoms, and the vast majority of people don't get any symptoms. So if you got some symptoms and then you're fine, that's great. High five your immune system, say thank you very much. You'll give yourself a high five. Thank you very much. And recognize, okay, so I need to learn a little more how to support my innate immune system for the future. Because there's a future coming, and whatever that future is, you want a stronger immune system, right? And then there are those that have to go to the hospital and the different stages of being in the hospital. This article came out last week. from the Journal of the American Medical Association just last week. And what did they say? They looked at 5,700 patients in New York City who were hospitalized because of COVID. And what did they find? That patients requiring admittance to the hospital, 57% of them had high blood pressure. 11% had a history of cardiovascular disease. CAD is coronary artery disease. 7% had congestive heart failure. 42% of them were obese. That means a body mass index, meaning your percent fat is over 30%. That's the definition of obese. And remember, obesity is not just girth. You can be thin and be obese if over 30% of your body composition is fat. So thin, obese people are really sick. They're the ones, we call them the walking wounded, you know, that they've got a virus like cytomegalovirus or Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, and they're not big people, but when you do a body composition analysis, they're over 30%, meaning they don't have much muscle, they don't have adequate amounts of muscle. But 42% of everybody that had to be admitted to the hospital was obese. 9% had asthma, 5% had chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, meaning they couldn't breathe very well. Diabetes, 34% were diabetic. So the vast majority of people that had to go to the hospital because their innate immune system couldn't handle this are in one of these categories. They've got something else cooking that's been cooking for a while and already been diagnosed for them. For almost all of them already had been diagnosed with congestive heart failure or high blood pressure or diabetes or something. Mortality for those put on mechanical ventilation was 88%, meaning almost 9 out of 10 people of these 5,700 people, if they had to go to the hospital, they went to intensive care, and then they went on ventilators, they didn't make it. 9 out of 10 of them didn't make it. That the heroic measures that our first-line physicians are trying to take in the hospitals, it isn't working. That it just isn't getting the job done. So anything we can do to help the innate immune system so that it does a better job and you can reduce the number of people that have to go to the hospital is going to be of great value. And some of you have heard that there's a concern about the rebound of this in the fall, and epidemiologists are watching Australia really closely right now because it's going into the winter in Australia right now. So they're looking to see if more people come down and get sick again. But that is a history of many different viruses, many different flus. They get worse in the fall and in the winter. Again, that happened in the 1918 pandemic. So really important are what are the things I can do to strengthen my innate immune system, the first responders inside my body. What are the things I can do? And we've talked about that in the other coffees. I'll give you a little summary here in a little bit of it, but there's more detail in the other summaries. Okay. Innate immune response is a critical factor for disease outcome. This came out last month. Critical factor for disease outcome. If you walk away with one thought here today, it's going to be, how do I enhance my innate immune system? And most of you are thinking, well, I don't know, what's an innate immune system? That's okay. You don't need to know. But that you know the question is what's really important, because now you can do a little bit of footwork, a little bit of research, and find out what helps the innate immune system. Now, I'm going to give you the big kahuna bullet points here today on what helps the innate immune system. But if I can plant that seed in you so that you understand, for you and your children and your parents and elders, we want to support the innate immune system. We want to support the first responders in our body to take care of whatever they're exposed to, right? Then you're going to go a long way to staying safe and healthy through this current crisis and any potential future crises that come. So any and every rational thing we can do that may support the innate immune system is worth consideration. You know, I got concerned this morning, I saw something on the Google News, the headlines. It said that a doctor in Michigan was just arrested for billing Medicare for doing vitamin C IVs to help people against COVID. And I'm at a loss to understand. There must be more to this story because there's lots of studies that show vitamin C may help. So maybe this guy was preying on old people and padding the bill or making claims like this will kill the virus, or who knows. But I showed you some studies earlier in the coffees coming out of China when they gave high dose vitamin C. Really sick people on ventilators got well in one day, within 24 hours. So I'm at a loss as to why that happened. So you're going to hear like both sides of some of this, but any and every rational thing we can do that may support your immune system, as long as it doesn't harm you, and it may support your innate immune system, is worth thinking about. That's the position I'm taking, is that you just want to know about this stuff and what are the things that feel right to you, and when you talk to your doctor or your healthcare practitioner to do. So this study came out a couple of years ago, and it talks about how the dietary choices we make either fuel or calm down inflammation. I've said this for years, the most potent gasoline on the fire that causes inflammation in your body, and inflammation is a response of your immune system, meaning your innate immune system. And the most potent gasoline on the fire that triggers your innate immune system to get activated, which is what causes what we call inflammation. It's when there's a whole lot of innate immune system activity. The most potent gasoline on the fire that activates your innate immune system, can I say it again, is what's on the end of your fork. Nothing is as inflammatory on a chronic long-term basis as what's on the end of your fork. And as you saw, the high percentage of people who had to go to the hospital because their innate immune system couldn't handle the exposure to the virus are those that have severe inflammation that took them over the line. Now they've got high blood pressure. Now they've got diabetes. Now they've got chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Those are all diseases of inflammation. All of them are. Long-term inflammation, and when your system is trying to protect you, trying to protect you, trying to protect you, and when it's in such overdrive, you get collateral damage. And we call that degenerative disease. So it's not a problem of your immune system being activated that you want to address. What you want to address is the gasoline on the fire that triggers your innate immune system, your first responders, to protect you. Stop throwing gasoline on the fire. Or more realistically for most of us is reduce the gasoline on the fire, right? And so we'll talk about some of that. But in this same study, they said dietary carbohydrates, yes, pasta and breads and cookies and big bowls of rice and all of that, dietary carbohydrates, animal-based proteins, and bad fats are the most potent gasoline on the fire that activates your immune system, trying to protect you from something that shouldn't be there, that causes the inflammation that you get. Can I say it any other way? I don't know, I'll try. What you eat fuels your disease. What you eat fuels your innate immune system trying to protect you from something that shouldn't be there. Now, there's nothing wrong with animal-based proteins. It's excessive amounts of animal-based proteins for most people, and it's the quality of those animal-based proteins. I've never met anyone who sees how hot dogs are made that then goes out and eats a hot dog. When you see the garbage that's in hot dogs, oh my God. And I've eaten so. Now it's really hard for me when I go to a baseball game not to have a hot dog on a gluten-free bun. Why? Because there's something about comfort food and the socializing. And it's really hard for me, but how often do I do that? Once every 4 or 5 years, but I shouldn't, but I do once every 4 or 5 years. I go to a ball game, not very often, but I do. And I love it when I do. And it's like, you put mustard on it. And I never liked radish, so I don't put radish on, but I put mustard, lots of mustard, and it drips down my shirt, and I look really funny. But Marzi takes pictures of me with mustard down my shirt. Yeah, it's part of the whole gestalt of the ball game, right? So you don't have to be perfect, but the vast majority of what you put on the end of your fork has to be non-inflammatory. You're diagnosed with high blood pressure right now. You're diagnosed with diabetes right now or congestive heart failure. Your friend are the polyphenols that I talked about in other coffees. The fruits and vegetables, the deeper the color, the more polyphenols that helps support your immune system. We'll talk about that a little more in a couple of minutes. But in general, excess carbohydrates, the animal-based proteins, and bad fats are the fuel on the fire for most of us. And I put this in here because you want to be on the arrow on the bottom, heading towards the right side of the screen. You don't want to be heading over to the left, because the more left you go, the more you're activating your immune system, trying to protect you, and then it gets weakened, and then it can't do its job when you're exposed to something like a virus, right? So look at that line at the bottom and look what's underneath it. Whole grains and fiber. Now, for the ideal fiber is root vegetables. 1 root vegetable every day. A rutabaga, a turnip, a parsnip, a radish, a carrot, a sweet potato. You include 1 root vegetable every day, and you go to Google and you type in list of prebiotic foods, P-R-E, prebiotic foods, print out the list, and you learn that a banana is a prebiotic and onions a prebiotic. So you print out the list, put it on the refrigerator, you have 1 root vegetable every day and 2 from the list every day. That's much, much better for you than whole grains. A little bit of whole grains once in a while, okay. Now that's brown rice, not white rice. That's what they mean by whole grains, or amaranth or quinoa. Those are whole grains, not refined grains. Nuts for fiber and omega-3 fatty acids, that's the fish oils. Fruits and vegetables with vitamin C, vitamin E, beta-carotene, flavonoids. Fish, cold water fish, really good for you in general, cold water fish. And legumes that have lots of phytochemicals. Head more to the right side of the screen and you support your innate immune system. And of course, you've heard me say the rainbow diet. The deeper the colors of your foods, not from food coloring, but from blue berries, from red raspberries, from purple cabbage, from orange peppers, from yellow lemons. The deeper the colors, the richer the colors, the more the polyphenols that support your immune system. This should be the main emphasis of every plate of food you eat. Marzi and I are in a hotel right now. We came into San Jose. We're in Costa Rica, and we came out of the jungle for a couple of days to buy supplies because we can't get nuts and seeds and gluten-free soy sauce, and many other things. So we're here for a couple of days. And so we've been eating the hotel food, which is really nice. They're nice people. And, in this resort hotel, this Marriott, it's a nice Marriott, and they've got 80 rooms per floor, 6 floors, and there are 6 people in the entire place, right? I mean, it's empty, right? So the menu is very limited for room service. So we're eating foods we normally don't eat because that's all that's available. And I don't feel so well. And you just do the best you can with what's available right now. But you keep in mind where you want to go in terms of your food selections. And whenever you get the opportunity, you choose plates of food that have more of these colors. So we drove today to a place that was open for breakfast, an organic place, about 20 minutes away. And we left here 2 hours before the broadcast. I said, oh my gosh, I'm a little bit of rush because I want to make sure not traffic. But the food was delicious. We had great smoothies. We had a beautiful bowl with multiple vegetables and some protein. Marzi had eggs, I had chicken. It was really delicious. So you do the best you can with what's available to you, always. And if all that's available is not the ideal, bless the food in your mind, thank the creator for this food and eat it and bless it and know that it's going to be good for you. Now, I have a hard time blessing a hot dog. I don't do that when I'm at the ball game. I don't even think about it. I want a dog, right? So, but that's not very often at all. Okay. This paper just came out, and look at the title: Optimal nutritional status for a well-functioning immune system is an important factor to protect against viral infections. Just came out. And so I put this one in here for you because they talk about the wealth of studies of the mechanisms and the clinical experiences with vitamins, including vitamin A, the B vitamins, vitamin C, D, E, folate. Folate's a B vitamin. Elements like zinc and iron, selenium, magnesium, and the omega-3, the good fats from fish. How important they are and complementary in supporting your immune system. Critically important. Inadequate intake and status of these nutrients are widespread. You don't get degenerative disease. I mean, extremely rare to get a degenerative disease if you have adequate intake of all of these nutrients. It's extremely rare. Against this background, the following conclusions are made. This was the summary in their study. Supplementing with these nutrients and the good fats is a safe, effective, and low-cost strategy to help support optimal immune function. They couldn't say it any clearer. Supplementation above the RDA. The RDA is what you need to prevent yourself from getting sick. Because if you get less than the RDA, you get sick. But there's a whole world between getting sick and being vitally healthy, optimally healthy. And they say if you take nutrients up the RDA, just right here, so you don't get sick, that's okay. Well, we say, no. You want to be optimal right now to give your immune system as much support as you can. So supplementing above the RDA, but within the upper safety limits for specific nutrients such as vitamin C and D is warranted. And how do you know the upper safety limits? You listen to those people that you trust who are reading the science. Go back to the earlier coffees with Dr. Tom and the one to D or not to D. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a whole presentation this Thursday on to D or not to D, and it's going to be much more technical on a number of studies. For any of you that are interested, we'll post a link. It's being hosted by a group out of England, but it's on the internet, so anyone can register for it. And then number 3, public health officials are encouraged to include nutritional strategies in their recommendations to improve public health. You want to strengthen your innate immune system. Really, really important. Nothing's more important in my opinion. And I showed you this back on coffee number 3, the former CDC chief, Dr. Tom Frieden, said, it's worth taking a little vitamin D. And I showed you this study that came out in March that showed to reduce the risk of infection, it's recommended that people at risk of influenza or COVID-19 take high doses of vitamin C, which are safe, for a few weeks to rapidly raise your vitamin D levels in your blood. And then you monitor it and you keep it at about 5,000 units per day. But this recommendation came out from world-class scientists. And we talked about, ideally, everyone needs to get their vitamin D checked. I think it's more important than checking your cholesterol. For the general public is every year you check your vitamin D, because every cell in your body needs vitamin D, especially your immune system. And there's a finger prick test you can do. And we'll post the link here. Eddie will post the link for the vitamin D spot test. Go to your doctor and ask them for the test. Marzi just caught my mind. She's doing this and pointing at the camera. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing?
Can you tell the URL for the Instagram?
Oh, I have to tell the URL for the Instagram people. That's what this meant. We haven't gotten our codes down yet. I've got to take her to a few more ball games, right? You know, the coach is on third base. Right? Okay. Okay, so the URL is www.theDr.com/vitamin D test. Okay. More important to go to your own doctor, your own healthcare practitioner, so that they can work with you on this. But if your doctor, or if you can't get to them, you can just order it online. We send you the kit, you poke your finger, send it back, and you find out what your vitamin D level is. The goal is to be between 50 and 75 NGs per ml. Okay. Yeah, there's that URL, the dr.com/vitamin D test. Now, vitamin C. This paper came out last year, and it talked about orally administered vitamin C in doses of 1 to 3 grams a day. That means you take it by pill, reduce the length of intensive care unit stays by 8.6%. Really safe for you, not going to hurt you. If you take too much vitamin C, you get a little gas or diarrhea. Cut down your dose. I mean, I don't know of other side effects. Rarely, there are a few people, if you have a history of kidney stones, you should not take higher doses of vitamin C unless you talk to your doctor first. But aside from that, I don't know of any other concern with taking modestly elevated levels of vitamin C. In 3 trials in which patients needed mechanical ventilation, do you remember the statistic in New York? 88.1% of those people didn't make it who were put on mechanical ventilation. In 3 trials in which patients needed mechanical ventilation for over 24 hours, vitamin C shortened the duration of mechanical ventilation by 18%. And that's consistent with the studies that came out of China that for people with COVID, that they got better in 24 hours. Given the insignificant cost of vitamin C, even an 8% reduction in ICU stay is worth exploring. The effects of vitamin C on ICU patients should be investigated in much more detail. That's what these doctors were saying, that look, this stuff works and it saves dollars in hospital expenses and it gets people out of ICU much earlier. Vitamin C, oh, and this one just came out last month. And vitamin C and other antioxidants are currently available agents to mitigate COVID-19 associated acute respiratory distress syndrome. Given the fact that high-dose vitamin C is safe, healthcare professionals should take a close look at this opportunity. So these doctors are saying, hey, look, it's safe, it's really helping. Docs, let's just take a look at this thing. And now about hydroxychloroquine. Why is it that the US government fast-tracked using hydroxychloroquine? I talked about this, I think it was in coffee number 4 in detail, but chloroquine increases zinc uptake in a concentration-dependent manner. What that means, the more chloroquine, the more zinc you uptake. Uptake means gets inside your cells, not just in the bloodstream. And the term for something that assists zinc in getting inside the cell is a zinc ionophore. That's just the geek word, it's a great Scrabble word, but it means I carry zinc inside the cell. And chloroquine is a zinc ionophore. Now, chloroquine comes from, it's mimicking quinine, and it's been used for over 350 years in India for malaria. And hydroxychloroquine is the drug that's been used for 60 years or so for malaria. And the government fast-tracked it to approve it for COVID-19. Why? Because it's a zinc ionophore, and it helps to get zinc inside the cell. Now, I thought it was cute that during the 1800s, British troops in India were given quinine to take as a daily medicine to stop them contracting malaria. But the quinine's got such a bitter taste, so to help it go down, they mixed it with water and sugar and local fruits. That's where the song came from, I think. Just a little bit of sugar helps the medicine go down. right? I don't know if you remember that song. I think it was Mary Poppins. I think that's the movie it was in. But that was tonic water, was water, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of fruit, and they put the quinine in there. And the British troops got permission to put a little spoonful of gin. That's where gin and tonics come from. So tonic water has quinine in it. And so there is no evidence that quinine is going to help prevent symptoms from COVID-19. It will not, there's no evidence for that. However, it's not going to hurt you to have a little tonic water. So Marzi and I are drinking tonic water it's not going to hurt, and it might help. Maybe it'll help. The dosing in tonic water is 83 milligrams, whereas in a dose of quinine for malaria, it's 500. So it's only 20% the dose, but it's not going to hurt you. The only danger with tonic water is some of them have a lot of sugar, a lot. And so we're looking for the low sugar ones. And we found one from Fever Tree. Fever Tree that's a company. They're a high-end mixing company for tonics and things like that. They have 5 different tonic waters. One is called Indian Light. And they don't use any artificial sweeteners. They just have less sugar in it. And so that's the one that we've been using. It's not going to hurt. Now look at the title of this paper. Zinc inhibits coronavirus and arterivirus RNA polymerase activity in vitro, and zinc ionophores block the replication of these viruses in cell culture. What does that mean? If you're measuring if the virus is in you and shedding, meaning making more virus, you do an RNA polymerase test. That's what the nasal swabs are. They're testing now for SARS-CoV, is looking at RNA polymerase. And zinc inhibits this from happening. Zinc inhibits the virus from shedding, but it's only when the zinc is inside your cell, not when it's outside the cell in the bloodstream. Doesn't work. It's got to get in the cell. That's why ionophores are so helpful, like quinine. That's why one of the mechanisms by which hydroxychloroquine works is it's a zinc ionophore. Okay, so what else helps get zinc inside your cells? Polyphenols. The deeper the color, the reds, the blues, the oranges, the yellows of the vegetables and fruit, the more polyphenols, and some of them are zinc ionophores. They get zinc inside the cell, which then prevents the virus from shedding. Okay? Zinc is your friend. You want more zinc inside the cell, and you get it you get that activity by more polyphenols, and maybe with a little tonic water. There's no study I've seen that tonic water is an ionophore, but we know that quinine is, and there's quinine in tonic water. Not as much as in a dose for malaria, about 20% of that, but it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt to have a little tonic water. Now, somebody's going to say, well, Dr. Tom said I should have a gin and tonic every day. I don't know what to say to that one, right? Just get the tonic water in if you want to take some tonic water. We talked about, I think it was in number 5 or number 6, about if you take medications to shut down a fever, you increase mortality with flu viruses by 5%. More people die if they shut down a fever. Fever is good for you, and we talked a lot about it. And the consensus is under 104 is safe for a couple days. It's your backup of the innate immune system. If the innate immune system can't get rid of all this by itself, it calls in some reserves. The first reserve it calls in, let's warm it up in here, because viruses don't like warm environments. That's why some people have been talking about putting a hairdryer up under your nose, to kill any virus that might get up there. The line of thinking is rational, but it's much better to do a sauna than a hairdryer up your nose. And I talked about saunas and all the benefits of that in, I think it was number 5. Coronaviruses are particularly adapted to evade immune detection and dampen human immune responses. That's why you have to have a robust innate immune system. If you've got an innate immune system that's just above, well, you're functioning okay, you know, like the RDA for nutrients, well, you're in the okay zone. If that's where your immune system is, viruses are adapted to evade detection. And so don't get activated. You don't activate the innate immune system. That's why you want an innate immune system that's over here, robust and strong, and can identify things at an earlier stage. And in the sauna thing, I talked about Finland, 5.3 million people, but they've got 3.3 million saunas. And they do saunas 3-4 times a week. And when I showed you this map of the Nordic countries, Finland is over here on the right in the pink. This is the Baltic Sea. And here is Sweden, and here is Norway. And you know, when you look at the population of Finland on the right, it's 5.5 million, pretty close to Norway and Denmark, half of Sweden. But look at the number of COVID cases as reported by Johns Hopkins University. Look at this. Now, this is about 3 or 4 weeks old now, these numbers, but the percentages have stayed the same. And you can see that Finland has a much gentler response in every column compared to other countries of the same population, Denmark and Norway. Why? Because the people in Finland do saunas 3+ times a week. And they do a sauna, and then they come out and they jump in the cold water right away. And then they go back in the sauna. So that's the line of thinking and the validation, and I showed you the studies the other day on that, why the Seventh-day Adventists talk about take a hot shower, then turn it all the way on cold, leave it on cold, and just breathe as comfortably as you can, and then turn it back on hot again, and then turn it on cold again. And they do each of those for 1 minute to 2 minutes. You know, because you're just waking up your body, and it strengthens your immune system. You actually get a more vital, innate immune system when you do that. And I talked about sleep and how important sleep is, 7+ hours a night. Strongly recommend this book by Dr. Walker. It's just an excellent book. And this is from Dr. Andrew Wild, that one study found that less than 5 hours of sleep over 7 consecutive days, viral infections increased by 350% compared to those that had at least 7 hours of sleep. So sleep is an important component here. And I talked about the blue zones. This is the book you want to read if you want to know how to live a long and vital and healthy life, because these are the people all over the world that live into their 80s, 90s, over 100, without medications, fully vital, valuable members of society. And there's a number of different, they found 9 different features of blue zone cultures. And for those of you that don't know, number 2, Hari Hachibu, means eat 20% less. Just eat 1 serving and wait 20 minutes before you go for seconds. Why? Because it takes about 20 minutes before the hormones in your stomach get up to your brain and say, I'm full now, I'm full, I don't need any more. So it takes, there's a little delay. So just eat 20% less to start with and see if you feel satisfied after 20 minutes. And I bring this one up because this is something new I want to talk about. Before we wrap this up, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. The first is what is being called social distancing. There is a big difference between physical distancing and social distancing. And it's a huge, huge problem that our leaders use the wrong word. You do not want to be social distancing. You don't want to be at home alone and staying cooped up in the house, in your condo, in an apartment, not reaching out to people, distancing from your social network. You want deeper social networks right now while you are physically distancing. What does that mean? It means you reach out to your friends and family on a daily basis. It may be a text, it may be a phone call, it may be FaceTime, but you reach out and you talk to people. Reach out and touch someone every day, at least one person. Have a goal of minimal one person. Some people are doing 5 people a day. They're reaching and they're rekindling their old friendships that just kind of got lost over time, right? Just reach out to people. You know, I woke up this morning and I was in the bathroom and I just thought of Jack Kornberg, Dr. Jack Kornberg. What a remarkable man he is. Retired now, surgeon who came over to functional medicine and taught thousands and thousands of us functional medicine principles from a surgeon's perspective. And brilliant guy. And so I just reached out to, hey, Jack, I was just thinking about you and a smile came across my heart and I hope you and your wife are doing well. Nothing off my back, but it might make his day and it makes me feel a little more connected. Oh, Jack's in my mind again, in my awareness. You know, reach out to people. People who you think about them, you get a little smile. Whoever it is, but make it a goal. Why? Because number 9 in the blue zones is belonging. You know, number 7 is belonging to a group, and number 9, the right tribe, that you've got these people that are just part of your tribe, your family, and that number 7, you belong to a group. Yesterday, my guys group, we got together every Thursday night for 18 years when we all lived in Chicago, and then we moved, and now we're talking every Sunday afternoon by Zoom. You know, you just reach out and touch someone and get connected with your world. The other thing I want to talk about that's new is something that's pretty startling to me. And I don't want to get involved in politics here, but I want to make you aware of something. There was a video that came out about 2 weeks ago, maybe less, of 2 doctors in California who sat down with some reporters to say, look, we've done over 5,000 tests for the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And we're finding lots of people with this virus that never got sick. And just like the study that came out of Stanford about 2 weeks ago said, we're finding lots of people who have antibodies to the virus but never got sick. And these doctors said, we're just doctors in the trenches, you know, but these are our numbers and our researchers need to look at this because it seems that the predictions of 2 million people dying are wrong. It's just not happening. And maybe the physical distancing is helping, but we're getting lots of people that are positive and didn't get sick. There was nothing political about what these guys were saying. They were just saying, look at this. Wow, these numbers, these are different than what everybody thought, than what we thought. YouTube took the video down after 5 million views. They took it down. And I'm discovering that a lot of different videos are being taken down. Now, we remember learning that in the late 1930s, early 1940s, there were groups that were burning books in big bonfires that didn't go along with what the group was saying. They burned the books. And we don't want to go back to that kind of a culture again. We all deserve to hear accurate information so we can make our own decisions. So I don't want to get involved in politics. So some people are on one side of the fence, other people on the other. But when I look at that and I said, what? They took that down. That's not right. That is just not right. And I've learned that there are a number of other videos that have been taken down that I'm startled by. Last night, my wife and I watched a 3-hour interview with a guy named David Icke, I-C-K-E. And I've never listened to anything of his before. I've heard about him. I thought he was a nutcase. And, you know, I just kind of passed him off. But what I heard last night has given me pause for thought. And I just want to introduce to some of you who may not have heard this, that we're not being shown all of the information that's out there, and we are being led down a way of thinking of fear. And nothing is more important than love. Nothing is more important than opening our hearts to our fellow human beings. Nothing has more power than that. I don't have a study for you on that right now. This is just common sense to me, right? So perhaps a place to start. I'm going to post a link to this interview, the two doctors. It'll be here for you. YouTube took it down, but we found it somewhere else. So just watch these guys and see if there's anything they say that's offensive. I can't imagine anything that's offensive. They're not giving any health recommendations, just saying, we did 5,000 tests and look at these results. And that's all they said. And if you see that video, that will perhaps open up an awareness for people that there's more going on than we're being told. And if you want to learn more about that, look up David Icke and that 3-hour interview that just happened. I don't have the link for that right now, but I'm startled, and I don't want to be in a world where we live in fear. And we don't have to live in fear. The vast majority of people are not getting sick from this virus. There are a few that are, and they're the ones who already have a huge amount of inflammation in their body, a very large amount that's caused degenerative diseases, so they're weak on the chain. So any of you at home that have high blood pressure or diabetes or obesity, you make the rainbow diet your friend right now, starting today. Every meal, the vast majority of your foods. You know what? Here's an example for you. My good friend, Dr. Terry Walls, was in a wheelchair with MS, bad. She couldn't walk. She changed her diet, she changed her lifestyle, she learned about functional medicine, she put it in complete remission in 1 year, from being unable to walk to 1 year later, after she started a program, riding her bicycle 25 miles with her family. And they'd stop every once in a while and they'd be crying of joy, right? So she's a no-nonsense functional medicine physician in Iowa. She has seen many veterans. Sorry, Marzi will get the phone. She has seen many veterans who are disabled, and they come back from the war and they're disabled, and she needs to turn their bodies around. They're highly inflamed. And the first thing she does, the very first thing, she says, you're going to eat 12 cups of vegetables a day before you eat any grains or any bread. No pasta, no bread, nothing. You eat 12 cups of vegetables first. And these are like strong guys who've been beat up or they've got PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. There's not much room for pasta after 12 cups of vegetables, right? Well, what's she doing? She's putting polyphenols in them, high doses of polyphenols in the healthy foods. And the result is their inflammation goes down. And these guys start functioning again. They come back to society. So you have diabetes, you have high blood pressure, you have obesity, you packing a spare tire around your midsection that's for a semi-truck. If that's what you got, your vegetables and fruits are your best friends, starting now, starting today. The deeper the color, the better for you. That's the rule. The most inflammatory thing, the most potent gasoline on the fire in your body is what's on the end of your fork. So that's first and foremost. Why aren't we sick all the time? Why is over 80% of those exposed to this virus okay? It's because of the microbiome, the good bacteria in your gut. And when you're feeding the bacteria in your gut with polyphenols and root vegetables, you are building a healthier, more diverse microbiome. 70 to 80% of your immune system, the innate immune system, is in the gut. And we've torn up our guts with the standard American diet. over the years. We've just torn them up, killed off so many of the good guys, and there's way too many bad guys there. So you want to feed the good bacteria in the gut. That's what the root vegetables are for. That's what the polyphenols are for, and many other things. But you want to feed the good bacteria in your gut. And we did a whole session on that. I think it was number 8 during the Q&A that I went into that in much more detail. And I really like this drawing that came out of a study, I think it was in 2012, of the guy working at a computer, sitting in his chair working on a computer. He gets exposure to nothing. Whereas the cowboy out grabbing a Christmas tree, right? That he's going to expose to lots of bugs and bacteria. You want the diversity of the microbiome. And we'll be talking more about that next week, actually, your environment. And what can you do in your environment to build a healthy microbiome? So with that, we are going to make transcripts of what I've said here. All the transcripts are available. You can rewatch the videos. They'll be online for free forever. The videos are there for you. If you want the transcripts or the slides and the studies and the MP3s and all of that, just go to theDr.com/coffee and you can find out how to get those there. And with that, folks, I'll say thank you all for your kind attention, and I'll see you, well, it's actually next week. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.